Now on Radio 4, our drama starring Shaun Evans is a true story from the front line of climate change.
Smoking Guns by David Morley.
Mountains are in my blood. I've been a mountaineer for most of my life. I've always loved to head out of the city, get a pack on my back, and climb. So now I've kind of retired. I moved north to the spectacularly beautiful state of Oregon. It's a hell of a change from the liberal bubble of the San Francisco Bay Area. Tell folks around here I'm a climate scientist and they start quoting Trump at me.
But I came here for the peace of mind. You can only really get that real peace out in the wilderness. Mostly I hike up at Crater Lake, where time stood still for hundreds of generations. But when I lived in England, large slice of my lifetime ago, I'd go to the Lake District, or Scotland, or sometimes a little further afield, the Alps. Maybe if Tony and I had started out on time that morning and I hadn't ended up pushing hard, I wouldn't have acted like such a damn fool. Come on, Tony!
Slow down, Ben, for God's sake!
Time. Sun's getting high. Shit, why do we start so late? Tony must be what, 50 yards behind me? We ought to rope together on this ice. Shit, this is miserable. Tony, watch your feet here! It's only 8 days for you. After 6 months looking after Dad. That's fair, right? Will I see him again? Come on, you need to clear your head, man. Cheer up, old boy. Better here than in bed with cancer.
Hey, what are you doing? This way's better. That crevasse will cut us off.
It's only a few feet across. We can jump it. Oh, jeez, no. No.
Santer, why are you writing with a pencil? Haven't you Americans heard of ink?
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
You're in British school now, Santer.
To the dread rattling thunder have I given fire.
Did Chaucer write in pencil? Shakespeare?
I guess not. No, sir.
Ink, Santer, ink.
Now would I give 1,000 furlongs of sea for an acre of barren ground. When storm clouds brood on the towering heights of the hill of the tranquil ball.
Environmental sciences. I mean, who does that?
The climatic research unit at UEA is the best in the world.
It's probably the only one in the world. No, I'm sorry. It's an academic dead end. A backwater.
The most important thing is how much the climate normally varies, year to year, decade to decade. That variability is the key. It's the background variability, or noise, that is the concern. This is a signal-to-noise problem.
Ben!
Oh, it's that noise.
Answer me if you can hear me! Ben!
I was pinned between two ice walls which were reducing my body temperature rapidly. My hands were cut and bleeding from trying to stop the fall. Moving was tough. I looked down between my boots and the crevasse seemed to be endlessly deep. But upwards I could see a letterbox of light, 120 feet above, and through that opening, if I could somehow make it up the ice wall, was the rest of my life.
Oh, there's yellowfin out there today. I can smell them.
Tim Barnett was from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography in La Jolla, California, a former Olympic-class swimmer who owned his own deep-sea fishing boat. He was doing work on climate change detection and attribution back in the late 1980s. He did what I focused on subsequently. Looked at the different components of the climate system, temperature, water vapor, atmospheric circulation, and tried to figure out which might be the best places to look for a human-caused warming signal.
You're still too focused on global climate models, Tim.
And that's Tom Wigley. He was my PhD supervisor at the University of East Anglia's Climatic Research Unit. But by the mid-90s, we'd both moved to the States. Tom was at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, and I was at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory.
Simpler climate models are just as useful.
There's just so much shark shit. Global models and patterns are key. We need to move away from the focus on global mean temperatures.
Both the simple and the complex models have value. It's not an either-or choice, guys.
Ben, there's something I said I'd put to you.
Oh, yeah?
What you did in Signal to Noise with Professor Hasselmann was out there, beyond the surf. Right, Tom?
I don't like the hippie metaphors, but I agree that Ben's work is pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
Faint praise, Tom. Just following in both of your footsteps. So what's this something?
The UN wants to brief world governments on the possibility of long-term climate change. Your work makes you perfect to skipper the most important briefing on global climate ever put together.
Listen, Tim, we've got a toddler, and I've got a pile of work already. Can't they ask someone else?
They already did, and now they're 6 months behind all the other IPCC chapters.
You're not making this sound any more attractive.
This is big stuff, man. Hundreds of scientists. The best global climate brains. It'll be a feather in your cap. You can't be a high flyer without feathers, man.
Stick with the watery metaphors, mate.
I'm this close to publishing some key papers on patterns of atmospheric temperature change. That's surely going to be a big part of the next IPCC report. Now, doesn't that exclude me from heading it up?
It means there's nobody better qualified.
Nobody apart from the guys who got asked before me, you mean?
Look, Ben, it's no big deal. 10% of your time, max. You already know most of the people working in the field, and I'll be there for any rough seas.
I've got your back too, Ben.
Trying to unlock the puzzle of Earth's climate system so it can be simulated by computer became a compulsion for me. The more I looked, the more it consumed me. If you're trying to find the human influence needle in the haystack of natural climate variability, where do you look and what do you look at? At temperature? Rainfall? Water vapor? In the ice of glaciers, the rings of trees, the ocean beds, the highest reaches of the stratosphere? Where? And now I had not just my work to preoccupy me, but also the scientific papers of the field's greatest minds. It was a job that meant I was head down in the ones and noughts of coding.
We'd met a Swiss guy called Thomas on our honeymoon in Greece. He'd been there with his wife, but his marriage had later broken down. He asked if he might come and see us. I explained to him that being lead author of an IPCC chapter was a hell of a lot of work, and I wouldn't have time to show him around. But he needed cheering up, so Heike and I agreed that he should come over and visit us anyway.
I'm back! Heike? Nick? Where's my little buddy? I'm coming to find you! Nick? Hey, Heike, are you guys here?
You have 2 new messages. Hey Ben, it's Jenny. How are you doing? I finally got a decent line out of Poland and you're not home. What a surprise. Hey, I'll call you back, but I am missing you, big brother. How's Heike and little Nick? Mom told me they're showing this Swiss guy around California. Call me when you get a chance. Hi, Ben. We're just leaving the East Bay. We're not going to wait for you as you're so preoccupied with your work. Thomas is so good with little Nick.
Good morning, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory.
Hey, Tom. Did you see the Times?
The New York Times? Yeah, they called me.
Front page. They've seen our latest IPCC draft.
Not a surprise, really. Someone was bound to leak it.
This stuff shouldn't be leaked to the press. In an important shift of scientific judgment, experts advising the world's governments on climate change are saying for the first time that human activity is a likely cause of the warming of the global atmosphere.
We've demonstrated it. Didn't the reporter get that distinction?
I think the scientific justification for the statement is there unequivocally, said Dr. Tom Wigley, one of the chapter authors. You gave them a quote, Tom.
Well, I thought it best, as they had the report already.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm meeting Dr. Singer.
Certainly, Mr. Perlman. Shall I show you to his table?
I'll find it.
Donald, good to see you.
I presume you saw the Times. The new consensus is represented by the Intergovernmental Panel.
We need to kick back against this idea of a scientific consensus, like we did on this crap about passive smoking. All right, Madrid. That's where the IPCC report is being finalized. We need to get on the inside of the process.
We're talking to the Saudis. They know we need to stop this before it gets to cutting emissions.
The Saudis we can trust, Don. Our country needs to understand that Clinton and Gore are being manipulated by un-American forces. They're in the woodwork of this administration. I mean, good God, man, the State Department is briefing. There's a provable human impact on climate.
If these scumbag liberals can make a carbon tax or restrictions on emissions a vote winner, they get their wet dream of socialism by the back door. And we'll be taking it up the ass from the Russians and every other shithole country for a generation.
Okay, Don. We've still got this. You can tell your clients in coal and oil that they needn't panic. For every one of these dumb environmentalists, we have our own voice in Congress. We will get across that man-made global warming is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on mankind.
I wouldn't wipe my ass on this paper. But we can work through the names on it. Go after them.
We just need to make an example of one of them. That's all the doubt necessary.
Let's cut off the head of the beast. Dr. Benjamin D. Santer.
I suggest we familiarize ourselves with him and his science.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change met in Madrid in November 1995. Chapter 8 of the report, which was my responsibility, was way behind and already politically controversial. The world's leaders needed to have the clear evidence that burning fossil fuels was warming the planet right in front of them in a UN-backed report. But God, I was tired. 10%, Tim Barnett had said. Actually, almost 2 years of constant and intense work and meetings across the globe. And now, well, somehow we had to walk out of this meeting with a document that everyone agreed on. These are exciting times, and this report marks a new era. There have been significant new findings since the IPCC report of 1990, and today our attribution knowledge, that is, the ability to find man's fingerprints on climate change, has been improved markedly by outstanding work at the Max Planck Institute, the UK's Hadley Centre, and at Princeton and Livermore in the US. Chapter 8 of the IPCC 1996 report can conclude with an assessment that there is a human influence on the Earth's climate.
You cannot let them get away with this. Your objection must be on the point of the uncertainty.
Of course. Mr. Chairman, we object.
Mr. Al-Saban, Saudi Arabia?
This is completely unacceptable. The science in the body of the report does not justify this conclusion.
Many hundreds of climate scientists have reviewed this chapter and its summary for the policymakers.
There is no certainty in this work.
This Saudi guy isn't a scientist. He's from their Ministry of Economics. He clearly doesn't understand the complexities, and I doubt anyone will take what he says seriously.
Presumably he understands that all science has an element of uncertainty. Uncertainty in itself is not something that precludes us from making an assessment of the available evidence. These studies show that when you attempt to explain the observed changes, you just can't do it with natural variability. It cannot be explained.
We move to strike any mention of human causes of warming.
Mr. Chairman.
My compatriot, Robert Watson, representing the United States.
These objections are absurd and unscientific.
There is a clear lack of understanding of even the basic principles of peer review and probabilities. I note that the Saudi delegate is receiving prompts from Mr. Perlman, a well-known lobbyist on behalf of the fossil fuel industry.
I am an accredited delegate with every right to be here.
Okay, everyone, we must allow comments from the floor. It is inevitable that some differences of opinion will occur.
Thank you, Dr. Santer. The Kenyan delegation.
We feel that this chapter should not have been included in the full assessment because of the lack of sound scientific knowledge. It is the weakest in the entire report.
Jeez, so much for no one listening to the Saudis, Tom.
What's happening to the science and all this horse trading?
I suggest that in order to resolve these disagreements, a breakout group is formed for detailed discussion of the scientific evidence behind this summary conclusion of a human impact on climate.
Detection means noting a statistically significant trend. And attribution means attributing that trend via what we call mankind's fingerprints to certain causes.
Our fingerprints are all over global warming.
I am yet to be convinced of the evidence of this.
We've been compiling temperature readings from around the planet at different altitudes and working the data into the latest computer-generated climate models. These are some of the most complex scenarios
I am a trained meteorologist.
Look. What the data shows is that the lower levels of the atmosphere are warming, but at the higher levels, it is cooling.
But that could be a natural phenomenon. Due to the sun, for example.
Now, if the sun was responsible for the warming, it would be warming the atmosphere at all levels. Greenhouse gases are trapping the heat at lower levels, and that is leading to a cooling of the higher levels where the heat does not reach.
How sure of this are you?
It was predicted in simple CO2 models way back in '67 by Sakura Manabe. We rigorously tested this prediction by including the effects of other human pollution and proved that Manabe was correct.
As lead author of this IPCC report and a research scientist in the same field, are you not in danger of marking your own homework here?
We welcome back the members of the breakout group after the discussions on the detailed science. Dr. Santer has revised the text after all our discussions. Have we resolved our differences?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Al-Saban, Saudi Arabia.
As we looked at the new text, we saw many problems. This chapter will mislead the world's policymakers. We must emphasize the satellite data showing no warming of the atmosphere.
You keep objecting, but you didn't even send a delegate to the meeting. You could have objected in the breakout group and been answered on that point by the scientists.
Those satellite readings are from too short a timescale to be significant.
I'm a representative of a sovereign nation, and you are just a scientist. It is your job to serve the governments of the world.
It is the considered assessment of the scientists involved in this process that the conclusion we must draw from the detailed work in the report is that mankind is affecting the planet's climate.
That does not reflect the science in the chapter.
I am from a small delegation. Unlike Saudi Arabia, Kenya is a poor country. But I was persuaded by their concerns that this was the most important issue. So, I went to the breakout group for many hours. And when I understood what was happening, I became convinced that Dr. Santer and Dr. Wigley had correctly portrayed the science. And therefore, I withdraw my objection to Chapter 8 and move we accept the text.
The intervention of the Kenyan delegate felt like a turning point. The Saudis, Singer, Perlman, and the rest of the fossil fuel industry had undermined themselves by trying to belittle the science.
The United States, you raised your flag?
Robert Watson, US delegation. We all know that the summary is going to be the only part our political leaders and their advisors will read. How we word this is of the utmost importance. We believe that, if anything, the authors have bent over backwards to be conservative. Our objection would be we've weakened the document too much.
We must come to some consensus. At present, we have taken together, these results point towards a human influence on climate.
We're talking about a sizable human influence. It really needs a qualifier. Some kind of word needs to be in there to say this signal is large enough to have actually emerged from the noise. It should say an identifiable human influence.
I think Sweden had a proposal that global climate is being measurably affected by human activities. A significant number of people want it stronger. There are others who want caveats in it.
If I may.
We need to move this forward, respectfully. As I was saying, some want caveats, particularly the Saudi Arabian delegation.
I think the correct word to put in front of the human influence is detectable.
Detectable doesn't say if we have detected something. It only means that we are able to detect, and not that we have done it.
So, can we have appreciable?
No, that is not acceptable. It's too strong.
I thought that was a good suggestion, Tom.
Thank you. I gather that the good old UK has come up with a word that might suit many here, not least Saudi Arabia. If we change appreciable to discernible?
We will, with reluctance, agree to that wording.
So, we have. Nevertheless, the balance of evidence suggests that there is a discernible human influence on global climate. We left Madrid exhausted, but with a sense that we'd done a good job. It had been a minor miracle to achieve so much, having arrived so far behind the other chapters. But somehow we'd allowed some seriously flawed statements into the early drafts. One of them claiming, and I quote, "No study to date has positively attributed all or part of climate change to human causes." That was just plain wrong. Several published studies had attributed all or part of climate change to human causes. It was left to me to make a final draft. Removing the "no study to date" statement was one of the easier cuts. I had no idea how much that would be used against me in the coming weeks, months, and years of my life and career.
The IPCC work meant traveling around the world. It also meant spending a huge amount of time at my desk. Being away from my wife, Heike, and my young son, Nick, was tough for all of us. After Madrid, I flew to the UK. I sat in a hotel room, making the wording changes we'd agreed on. I was tired and missing my family, and I had no idea what was in store for me.
Have you read the IPCC report? It's been changed since Madrid. Substantial deletions that have removed doubts on the science expressed in previous drafts. Now, you need to go in hard today. I've set it out here.
Who made the changes?
Santer. You've got to hang him out to dry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to be standing on the same stage as my colleague and friend, Dr Ben Santer, whose work was the centerpiece of the IPCC report into climate change. Ben.
Thanks, Tom. We are at a turning point in climate science. Measurable patterns of temperature change coincide with patterns that our computer modeling says would result from the buildup of CO2. The research assessed in Chapter 8 of the 1995 IPCC report concludes that the warming of the planet cannot only be attributed to natural variability.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an outrage. What we have witnessed here today is nothing short of a scandal. there have been substantial deletions and significant alterations. The intent of these changes was to remove and suppress underlying uncertainties in the science.
That's not correct.
Who authorized these changes?
Any changes were made for clarity and in response to comments received from governments and NGOs.
The report was written by 40 scientists and peer-reviewed by 60 others. Mr. Perlman, you are deliberately misreporting and misrepresenting our work.
This man, Ben Santer, has made secret changes to the IPCC report.
That's absurd!
This is a politically motivated tampering that raises serious questions about the United Nations scientific credibility.
Perlman and Singer are deliberately distorting the picture.
Their allegations are completely baseless. That's my pager. They don't understand the process.
Are you not hearing what I'm saying, Ben? They don't care about the science. It's all about making the truth go away.
I just got a message that we need to read the Wall Street Journal editorial page.
Wall Street Journal? That's 75 cents, buddy.
Keep the change.
Mr. Big Time.
A Major Deception on Global Warming by Frederick Seitz, former president of the National Academy of Sciences. Oh God, listen to this. In my more than 60 years as a member of the scientific community, I have never witnessed a more disturbing corruption of the peer review process than the events that led to this IPCC report.
Christ, mate. How can they get away with printing this?
The report's lead author, Benjamin D. Santer, must take major responsibility. Fred Seitz was the biggest name in American science that Singer and the fossil fuel industry could use to try to discredit me. This was a man who had helped us develop the atomic bomb and had deep connections in Washington. He was a Cold War warrior turned climate change skeptic, convinced that cutting emissions would hobble industry and allow enemies of the US to steal a march on us. My name is Dr. Benjamin Santer, and I'd like to make a complaint about today's Wall Street Journal. Who do I... Hello? Hello?
Did they cut you off?
I'm on hold. Yes, this is Dr. Benjamin Santer. You have an article in the paper today that is factually incorrect and probably libelous. Who am I speaking to?
My name is Ned Crabb. The first thing to say, Dr. Santer, is that this was an opinion piece. The comments made by Professor Seitz are his views only. They are not the views of the newspaper. Look, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm in a meeting right now and I can't talk.
Hi, John. It's Ben Santer. Sorry to trouble you, but something's come up.
I was just about to call. I've been faxed a copy of the Wall Street Journal. It's a disgrace. The charges of a corruption of the process are preposterous. We will all stand behind you. I'm gathering support from the IPCC lead authors.
The changes I made after Madrid were required of me.
Absolutely, Ben. To take into account the views expressed at the meeting and in writing. This Seitz chap is talking nonsense. The Wall Street Journal will have to issue an apology.
We don't issue apologies.
I beg your pardon?
The Wall Street Journal doesn't apologize for op-ed pieces.
I shall have to take legal advice. This is damaging to my reputation in the scientific community.
That's up to you, but I ought to warn you that the bar is high for libel when it comes to opinion pieces. Do a scientist's pockets go that deep?
Scientists like me don't make a whole lot of money. And money makes the world go round, doesn't it? There's an irony there. U.S. industry put millions of dollars into discrediting climate science, and some of the subsequent damage done to the planet is now irreversible for centuries to millennia, according to the United Nations. I certainly didn't make as much money as Thomas Schaffner, a Swiss finance guy who was about to figure large in my life. I've dropped Heike and Nick off at the airport.
How long will she be in Germany?
I'm not sure. Listen,
She said 8 weeks, right?
Well, now it's maybe 4, and she's staying with her mother.
Won't you miss your anniversary? And with all the shit that's going on, Ben,
I wanted to ask you, Jenny, look, a letter's arrived from Switzerland addressed to Heike.
And?
Thomas Schaffner is the only person we know in Switzerland.
The guy Heike showed around California?
Right, so I presumed it was to say thanks.
And you opened it?
It's not what I thought. He's intimate. He's asked her to come on holiday with him and bring Nick. And that she should leave me for him.
Oh, for God's sake.
Thomas's love letter was a sudden darkness in my life. I was unaware that my wife was unhappy in our marriage, and I had no idea why. So much for my skills in detection and attribution. But while my personal life was being sideswiped, Sir John Horton had written to the Wall Street Journal to reply to Seitz's lies about me, and 40 of the scientists involved in the IPCC report had signed in support. But we had no idea if the paper would publish it.
Congressman, Dr. Singer is here to see you.
Fred Singer, as I live and breathe. Come in, come in.
Mr. Rohrabacher, thank you for your time.
Hey, come on, Fred. My time is always your time. I know I speak for many Republicans when I say your scientific insights are invaluable and...
Oh, I am humbled.
And I will never forget the advice and support you gave us in the Reagan administration when I was taking my first steps here in D.C.
Well, we won't get the Reagan years back.
2 terms is an artificial limit, in my view. Now, got your note? I do believe you're right. All this claptrap about global warming seems to be gaining credence here on the Hill.
It's not too late to shut it down, Congressman.
I sincerely hope not. It's a fraud, a game plan by liberals to create global government. So let's talk.
Ben! G'day, mate. Glad I caught you. Have you seen it? I picked up a copy on my way over.
Tom, there's somewhere I
The Wall
have
Street
to be.
Journal have published our letter. Let's have a look. Here we are. Frederick Seitz's actions reflect an apparent attempt to divert attention away from the scientific evidence of a human effect on global climate by attacking the scientists concerned. Ripper.
Let me see. The rules of procedure were strictly followed. Good. Good. It's good to see that in print. But they haven't included the names of the co-signatories.
What?
Dan, this just looks like I've written to complain on my own. It completely undermines it.
Ah, bastards.
Tom, there's something else. Heike has disappeared in Germany with Nick. I can't reach her.
Right. Has she got one of these cell phones yet?
No. I've got to go. Will you walk with me?
Of course, mate. Christ, it never rains but it pours, eh?
So I got through to one of Heike's friends over in Germany. Heike's been with Schaffner the whole time over there. She's no plans to return. No intention of bringing Nick back.
Are you sure?
I've booked a flight.
Do you think you need a lawyer?
But my passport has expired, so I'm gonna sort that out. But I've also been called for jury service. I'm due in court today.
Oh, you're kidding me. Listen, Ben, there's something I...
Yeah?
But... I'm really sorry, mate. Look, did you hear about this congressman? A Republican called Rohrabacher.
No, why?
Well, he's just announced that he's investigating you.
What?
He's citing Singer and Perlman's allegations and asking about your government funding.
Oh, my God.
He's pressing for hearings in Congress. He's trying to convince Washington that the science is wrong.
What?
Dr. Santer, in order to assess your suitability as a potential juror, we need to ask you a few questions.
Your Honor, I've got some pressing issues that I need to...
We all have.
Attend to.
So let's get on with it. Firstly, have you ever been the victim of a crime?
I'm not sure whether
Dr. Santer, will you please answer the question?
Your Honor, my 3.5-year-old son, Nick, has been abducted by his mother and taken to Germany. I just don't know if I'm ever going to see him again. I need to go and find him and bring him back to the States, but my passport has expired, and I just don't think I have
Dr.
time.
Santer.
Yes?
You are excused. Jury duty. Next, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I never thought it was personal with Singer and Perlman. They were just doing a job on me. I guess to say to the scientific community, look what happened to Santer. This is what will happen if you claim humans are changing global climate. It sends a signal. Of course, they had help. The media got the fossil fuel industry message out that you couldn't trust the science.
Later in the show, eminent scientist Dr. Frederick Seitz reveals the conspiracy behind claims of global climate warming.
There is a conspiracy.
meddling into science at high levels in the United Nations Climate Change Panel and our own State Department. A man called Benjamin Santer is guilty of nothing short of scientific cleansing.
Being accused of scientific cleansing at a time when ethnic cleansing in the former Yugoslavia was killing tens of thousands was shocking. And my family had been cleansed by Hitler. My German Jewish father had been put on a boat to America in 1935 to escape the Nazis and then gone back to fight them when he was older with the US Army in Normandy. His mother, father, and youngest brother didn't survive the Nazi regime. Singer and Seitz's lie that I had manipulated the report to play down any uncertainty in the science didn't bear up to the facts. But hey, who cares about facts? If you don't like the facts, get your own facts, Trump style. The pre- and post-Madrid versions of the report were equally cautious in their statements. Uncertainties were not suppressed. Roughly 20% of Chapter 8 was devoted to the discussion of uncertainties.
Fellow Americans, don't get fooled by big government scientists saying we need to close down industry, give up our cars, and pay a carbon tax. I am joined by climate expert Professor Fred Singer, who has the real facts.
Well, climate scientists are talking about what they call the greatest global challenge facing mankind. But they are ignoring satellite data that shows there is no warming at all.
I'm joined by distinguished scientist Dr. Richard Lindzen of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who's keen to dispel any worries that CO2 could disrupt the world's climate.
We don't have any evidence that this is a serious problem. Putting your faith in these computer models is like using a Ouija board.
Are some people talking up a crisis to get research grants?
Of course they are, yes.
Hey! Oh, Ben, you're looking well. That California sun.
I've hardly been away from my computer and the phone, Jenny.
Well, it's good to see you. How's Mom?
I haven't told her what's happening.
It would break her heart. If only Dad was still here.
My lawyer has served papers on Heike under the Hague Convention on Child Abduction.
Is she in the real world?
Well, she finally got herself a lawyer and has agreed to meet today.
So, your wife did not show at the agreed meeting today?
No. It's now over 8 weeks since they left the U.S. She's reneged on 3 agreements to meet.
Our inquiries have shown that she has attempted to register herself and Nick as German residents.
Jesus!
I've set out a chronology of events which details phone calls, attempts to arrange meetings, and what I know of Heike's movements between Germany and Switzerland.
She said she was with her father, but later admitted she'd gone to the Baltic with Mr. Schaffner. And God knows how Nick is through all this.
This looks like an extensive document. Thank you.
Detail is in Ben's DNA.
I'm traveling to Switzerland tomorrow to try and find Nick. You know, she claimed to her lawyer that she's afraid I'll abduct Nick? If they answer, you can be my witness.
Sure. But it looks like they're not home.
We'll wait. We've come a hell of a long way for this.
Ben, what car does Schaffner drive?
I've no idea.
Well, there's one pulling in now.
That's them. Hey, Nick! It's Daddy! Nick!
Oh my God!
No! No! Nick! Nick, you can't take him! Nick, he's my boy! He's my boy! Nick! Got to keep on. We're not dying down here. Okay, we're not dying today. Get a grip on yourself, Ben. Today isn't the day. Back in that alpine crevasse, the darkness had taken a grip on me. When I'd looked down under my boots into its mouth, its icy breath had sucked the energy from my lungs. But the sky was above me, and I'd fought my way up, inch by inch, into the light, and I lived. But you know that. Having a child taken from you is pure pain. A cold, black vacuum that sucks at your heart. Nick was brought back to me by the power of international law. Neither of us will ever be free from our past, but we've both put those days behind us as much as we can. Now he's a grown man and my light. Heike and I divorced, but she chose to live in the States and be a part of Nick's life too. Good for Nick and tough for her. I'll always respect that decision.
Come on, Dad!
No, we're losing the sun! Nick! Nick, we should rappel down!
No, we can still make it! I mean, this overhang is tough, but then we're cool to the top. It's just 100 feet, maybe 120.
120? Yeah, I can see. Yeah, you remind me of someone I knew a long time ago.
Huh? Yeah, we got time to go.
Time. Have we got time? Did I spend my time doing as much as I should have done to make people aware? Climate change is the single biggest health threat facing humanity. The impacts are already harming health through air pollution, disease, extreme weather events, forced displacement, food insecurity, and pressures on mental health. Every year, environmental factors take the lives of around 13 million people. These are not my words. These are the words of the IPCC report of 2021. But we climate scientists knew carbon emissions were heating the planet more than 25 years ago. We said so, but we're understated and cautious as a community. Were we too easily shouted down by the greedy and the misguided? Tom and I, and everyone else involved in the IPCC, had and still have to endure countless interviews and opinion pieces across the media that just don't give the whole truth, or plain distorted with untruths. Elements of the press, some presidents and prime ministers, many TV presenters, they're all part of the misinformation machine, and they do so with impunity. If I had my time again, would I still have said yes to the IPCC back in 1994, knowing what I know? Yeah, I would have said yes. No doubt in my mind about that.
Why? Why would I go through all the bad stuff again? The answer's simple. I had the privilege of helping to show that human actions are warming our planet. I had the good fortune to work with brilliant women and men all around the world. The bad stuff that happened to me is just the background noise. So I'm a lucky guy, not a victim. I climbed out of that crevasse in the French Alps. I found purpose in life. I worked on issues that matter to all of us. I lived and loved. I raised a wonderful son. I still have strength and a voice. I can still fight for public understanding of climate science. There's more story left to tell.
In Smoking Guns by David Morley, Ben Santer was played by Shaun Evans. Nicholas Bolton was Tom Wigley. Laurel Lefko was Jennifer Santer. Kerry Shale played Fred Singer and Bob Watson. William Hope was Donald Perlman and Fred Zeitz. Philip Franks was Sir John Horton. Wilf Scolding played Ned Crabb and the German delegate. Naif Rashad was Al Saban. Nathaniel Christian was the Kenyan delegate. And James Morley played the young Ben Santer. Dr Ben Santer appeared as himself. Original music was by Chris O'Shaughnessy. Sound design by Tom Maggs. Smoking Guns was directed by David Morley and was a perfectly normal production for BBC Radio 4.